Good morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. I believe most people have logged in at this point. I just want to welcome you. My name is Mary Lois Bolka. I work for the Northwest Wisconsin Workforce Investment Board, and we put on this monthly webinar series as part of our Northwest Wisconsin Business Services team. I'll go ahead and let you know next month's webinar will be February 13th. It will be on the job training as a solution for your hiring needs. All of our webinars are recorded and posted on our website at nwwib.com/biz-services-webinars. So be sure to check there. This webinar will be recorded and posted within 1 to 2 business days, so look for that coming soon. Today we have Nathaniel Melton, our Correctional Services Specialist for the Northwest Wisconsin SEP. He will be presenting today on ex-offender employment, an opportunity and strategy for a competitive advantage in today's economy. 9,000 individuals in Wisconsin are returning to their communities each year from prison. Many of these individuals are motivated to take advantage of classes and work opportunities offered to them while incarcerated to better themselves. Institutions have begun creating opportunities for individuals to get an education and a degree in custodial services, welding, CNC machining, and many more. This webinar will cover many of the training opportunities offered in these institutions and how employers can tap into this population as a viable workforce. Nathaniel will present today for about 25-30 minutes, and then we'll follow with any questions and answers after that. So with that, I will hand it off to you, Nathaniel. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I am excited to be here to be able to present. I work with Northwest SEP, and I work specifically with a program called Windows to Work, which is through the Department of Corrections. I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. And so hopefully this morning I can answer questions or maybe at the end of this. So basically, I work with ex-offenders. I work with offenders both within the institution and when they're released. And I think that this is a population that should be considered for employment. And so we're going to talk about that and a strategy maybe on who might be a great fit for your business. As was stated, we have about 70 million adults in the U.S. with a criminal record. I would say probably if you have a business, more than likely there's somebody that has a record that is probably employed. But in Wisconsin specifically, we have 66,000 plus under correctional supervision in the community. We have 22,000 plus that are incarcerated in Wisconsin Department of Corrections. And we do have between 8,500 and 9,000 people in Department of Corrections in Wisconsin that are released every year back into our communities. So you can see some of the stats on there. I'm going to move forward to the next slide. In my area, so my area is combined with 2 different workforce development areas. So I work 4 counties in Region 5, and I have 6 counties in Region 6. But this gives you an idea on supervision and post-institutional release into the communities. Okay, incarceration and preparation for release. We have 37 adult correctional institutions and facilities. Right now, the Department of Corrections uses a compass, it's called, and that's what we validate risk and need assessments, and that's then how they go forward to create opportunities or treatment programs. So some of the things that are addressed are cognitive interventions, anger management, domestic abuse, and so on and so forth. Also in our institutions, they have GED, HSED. They also have educational programs for vocational training in 24 areas in 17 institutions. And I know that's continuing to grow because they want to partner with some of the technical colleges so that some of these individuals are well prepared when they're released so that that integration back into the communities will go well and they'll have an education. Inmates also have an opportunity to do jobs within their institutions, and in some of the institutions they are able to do work release. For example, in my area we have Gordon, which is a minimum security, and they work in several different counties in the area. There are a couple programs that you may know or may not know, but one of the programs that is called Community Corrections Employment Program. So in each of the areas, there will be an individual that works with individuals coming out of corrections to help them find work. Job development, work experiences, on-the-job training, so on and so forth, to help them get back into their communities and be productive. The Windows to Work program is the program that I work with and have worked with in the last 5 years, almost 5 years. And so each Workforce Development Board is contracted to provide or subcontract to provide programs selected at state correctional institutions or county jail facilities. Specifically, I work in two. So I work in Stanley Correctional Institution, and I also work in Chippewa Valley Correctional Treatment Facility, and one county jail, which happens to be Douglas County Jail. And so I'm going to just probably go off a little bit of the slides. That's some information. I'll try to move it forward, but I'm going to just now go off the cuff and share what my passion is. So basically in the Windows to Work program, I work with individuals before they're released. And so I teach them, I'll teach them, and I'll show you a list of all the things that I teach them to help prepare them when they're released from corrections. And then I work with them when they're released to help them find employment and work with any barriers that they may face to give them the best opportunity for success. My program is free will, so if they don't want to participate, they don't. So the guys that I work with, I work primarily with male population, so the guys that I work with are guys that want to do the class and complete the class. In Stanley and Chippewa, that class will be between 10 to 12 full days of instruction. In the county jail, what I do there is I teach a class just about every Wednesday morning, and I do that until the individual completes the whole course. And then on completion, I give them a certificate. So my area, I cover 10 counties, but the Windows to Work program is pretty much in the whole state at several different institutions that's being taught. Our program has been finding a lot of success, and so it's being developed and expanded throughout the state and in institutions. This slide just gives you some enrollment data. I'm going to move on to the next one. Give you a little bit of employment education. This is some of the recidivism and reincarceration. So basically everything I do with the guys that I work with, we track everything from the time they're released, the day they're released, how quickly they find that job, and how long they have that job. And we track raises and how much the average wages, average hours, and so on and so forth. And as you can see, that the recidivism rate with the individuals that we're working with, it has been dropping and has been successful. And so we're pretty excited about what we've been able to accomplish in the state of Wisconsin. We're the only state that subcontracts with a nonprofit. So Department of Corrections is the only state that does that. And so far, at least the Windows to Work program has been finding some success, and that's why they continue on to expand it. Here's some trends. Just give you a second to look at some of that. Here are some of the things that we are addressing. So some of the things that I'm addressing is antisocial, cognition, companions, personality, temperament, family, marital. Those are the big 4 needs. And then the lesser 4 needs, which are still needs, are employment, substance abuse, education, and just free time. And so those are some of the issues that we address in class. I know this is kind of scrunched in a little bit, but the class that I teach, so I am teaching individuals both a cognitive behavior intervention for offenders seeking employment. So basically, we are addressing why they do what they do and why they do it, and without saying, hey, you need to do this, that, and this, and give them all the stuff they need to do and point the finger. what we do is cover those issues so they can have those aha moments. And we address that and we teach that in accordance with them being on the job. So, excuse me, so how would they handle maybe a coworker that they don't really like and a situation comes up, and what is their normal way of handling that situation? So we go through some of those things, how to best handle that, tools to use in communication, all those sorts of things in their thinking processes. In work, we're going to cover all these issues. So we cover soft skills, hard skills. We cover general work skills and expectations. We cover financial literacy, community resources. We do applications, resume development, interviewing skills. We pretty much try to cover any and everything that possibly they will face when they're released. It used to be where, when I was growing up, that I thought it was a given how you just do things when you go get a job. For example, how I present myself, how I would talk to an employer. And that's just not true. We have individuals that just don't have some of those skills, and so we address those. For example, I work out of the job center in Spooner, and I see people who come in pajamas, and I tell them, yeah, I would think that that's a given, that you just don't show up at a job center where you potentially could find a job and you show up in pajamas. So we talk to them how to best carry themselves at a professional level, how to dress, how to talk, and we practice interviewing. We practice all those skills from doing practice applications, so on and so forth. And so my hope is that when they're released, they're ready for finding the job. And then with my individuals that I work with, or any of the Windows to Work programs, we call ourselves coaches. So they have I have a cell phone, they can contact me and meet with me, and I will coach them through and help them find that job. What's great about the Windows to Work program is if an individual is being released, he has nothing. And I have worked with individuals that come out with literally only the clothes from the institution. So our program is in a way that I can help them with work clothes. I can help them work with them in finding the right kind of housing, finding jobs. We have programs. I can help them with tools. I can help them so they're prepared for whatever the employer needs from them to help them be successful in the job and as an individual. Pretty much I can help with anything but fines and restitution. That we do not do. One of the cool things that's beginning to happen, I think is cool, is they're beginning to do more programs within the institution for individuals who are wanting to get educated in several different areas that we have need of workers. So here's a list of some of them. I know in Stanley they just added a welding program that's going to be added. I know there's CNC machining at several different institutions. Maintenance out of Stanley. I know there's some office things and different courses that they can take and apply themselves while they're incarcerated. And here's just a slide that shows some of those partnerships. Big four needs: attitudes on the job, valuation of work, lacking self-control, self-regulation, having poor problem-solving or coping skills, having those soft and hard skills. Again, those are issues that I address in our classes. And I address when they're released, too, because I know that that's going to be their best foot forward in being successful. All right. I'm going to move on to this is the IRIS project, and that's some of the stuff I've been helping guys being more educated. What I'd like to move on to a little bit is maybe some strategies. So what should I look for when I have an offender applying for a job? What I would encourage people is, I think when you have between 8,500 and 9,000 people coming back into the community, I believe, and what I see is some incredible workers that have some incredible gifts and abilities that could be a great fit for employers. Now, that doesn't mean every person that's being released out of corrections is going to be that best fit or a best scenario for success. But one of the things that the reason I go through and say, here's what some of the things that the guys can take advantage of why they're incarcerated is because when they're released, there's a big difference between a guy taking my class, took welding, was employed while incarcerated, got his GED, got educated, took advantage of everything to rehabilitate himself. That person is more likely to be very successful when they're released. For the reason I share about the Windows to Work program is because this may be a program that some of you would take advantage, for those of you who may be employers to take advantage of. For example, if I have an individual that doesn't have much work experience, I'm able to hire them at a place of work for them for between a month, month and a half, pay their wages, workman's comp, have a place that says, yeah, we could use this worker, and it gives them an opportunity to learn how to work, learn how to work with other people, hopefully develop some relationships, working relationships that in the process they would have people they can put on their resume, would be able to have a work experience to put on their application, so on and so forth. And on some of those places, I'm hoping that maybe they do such a great job that will open the door that the employer would want to hire them. We also have what we call on-the-job training. So with any of the individuals that I work with that are coming out to my 10-county area or the other areas for Windows to Work, most areas offer what we call on-the-job training. And what that is where a company, before they sign all the paperwork, works with the Windows to Work coach and says, yeah, we'd like to give this guy an opportunity. What we're able to do is reimburse the company 50% of their wages. And so that helps in the training process. That helps in giving that person an opportunity, and we're able to then pay half of their wages up to a month. Depending on each area, they all do it a little bit differently and on the individual. So when an individual is released and he's at least in the Windows to Work program, that individual has a job coach. And a company, a workplace, if they want to take advantage of that and say, hey, Mr. Melton, we would like you to come in and work with this guy, work with us, we want to make it work. I'm available to help make that happen because I want my guys to be successful. For me, it's a win-win when we have, as employers, we're able to fill those jobs. Win-win when I have guys that are getting released from corrections and they're finding employment, because if they have good working employment, they're less likely to do something crazy and go back into jail or violate supervision. Anybody have any questions so far? I'm kind of working fast and talking about a lot of stuff, but I'm hoping it makes sense. And if you have questions, I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. Well, hopefully not everybody's sleeping. I'm hoping it wasn't that bad of a presentation.
Nathaniel.
Yes.
Can you explain to the group, well, an inmate's in the institution, how easy it is for them to be removed from your program or any of the education or employment they have there?
So if I understand the question, how easy is it for them to take my program?
Well, and how easy it is for them to lose that privilege.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate that question. So an individual to be in the program, he has to do several things. So basically when they get in the program, we have basically a contract that they need to continue in communicating. They have to show up on time in the class. For example, we offered a class between 3 to 9 months before they're releasing. So it's right before they're releasing. They need to show up every day for class, and if they don't, they're removed from the class. So they literally go through all the program, and when we're done teaching the class and they've completed the class, have the certificate, we meet every month. And if a guy decides he just isn't going to get out of bed to come see us when we're come to just talk about follow-up and so on and so forth, they would also be removed from the program. So when an individual is released, They understand that it's their responsibility to contact us as Windows Work coaches, and then we work with them. We give them some things to do. We help them out in working towards employment. It's an employment program. They understand that, and that is the whole goal for success. If individual decides to drop off the radar, isn't communicating, isn't doing the things that he needs to do, there's several different factors, but then we will close them out. And we track all of that with our program. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That was a good question.
Nathaniel?
Yes, sir.
Pete Weedman with Lakehead Constructors out of Superior.
Yes.
Do we, if an individual comes to us and interviews for a job, do we get a resume from them, or do they send a resume of their past skill sets, if they have any at all, so we have an understanding of what they have experienced prior to incarceration?
Yeah, every one of the individuals that I work with, we work on resumes. So, for example, if you are in there's manufacturing jobs, they just want the application, fill out the whole application. We have other jobs where you need a resume. Whatever it is that you're looking for, if I'm working with those individuals, I require that they know how to do all that, work with them to present that. So if, let's say, you call me up and say, hey, I'm really interested in hiring some individuals who are released, what I do is I try to find the best fit and then present those individuals to the employer and then work with what you're looking for. So, for example, you've got construction trade. Well, they're going to have some basics to be able to get there. So all of that, depending on what an employer wants, if they're working with me directly, yes, I most certainly would have them present what their background is as far as experience or education.
And as you continue with your work, I noticed that you have some welding opportunities for these folks as they're coming through your classes. Do they come out with any type of certification in the welding world?
So that's a good question. So my program is really addressing the soft and hard skills and the cognitive thinking piece. If they're in certain institutions and they are, let's say, welding, because I'm not involved with that aspect of it, but in the welding, so if they were to go to Stanley, take the program, get totally completed successfully, their certificate will actually come from, I think it's it'll be one of the technical colleges in the area. So I think that's Chippewa Valley Technical College. And that's what their certification. Any certifications that happen in any of those fields will all be certified through a technical college or college. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, good questions. Thank you. Any other questions? So that other question that was asked, I just want to clarify. What I wanted to do was present what is going on in Wisconsin in the Department of Corrections. What their goal is trying to help individuals who are incarcerated to address some of their needs by having some of those processes and present opportunities so that individuals will come out, can rehabilitate themselves, have the skill set so they can find a job that helps support themselves and be productive. So in that are educational programs that are being offered that have those certificates through the technical colleges, whether it's anger management or AODA issues or cognitive issues, so on and so forth, on how to handle issues. They're offering that. My program specifically is unique where we are teaching some of those skills. We give them the practice opportunities to do those skills. But what's unique is I'm not a Department of Correction employee. I work with Department of Corrections, but I'm not an employee. I'm an employee of Northwest SEP. So with those individuals that take the program, when they're released, I work with them and available for them. And so that's what's unique. A lot of those guys are going to be on supervision, so they're also working with their agent, are getting random tests, so there is some work and accountability that goes on with that. With my guys, I'm willing to work with employers to help with the best case scenario so that they're successful. So there's several different things. So if I was a business and, for example, I was interviewing, I would make sure, I would be asking, you know, what you did while you were incarcerated to better yourself or something to that degree, because that's why I present all of these things, because not every person's going to take advantage of the opportunities while incarcerated. But if you have an individual that took advantage of every opportunity while incarcerated to work a job getting paid 15 cents an hour and took some of these classes, they're probably more likely to be highly motivated to do well once they're released from the correctional institution. And again, Windows to Work is being offered throughout the state. Every area has a Windows to Work coach working with a nonprofit organization and teaching a class within their institutions, and right now 5 county jails.
Nathaniel?
Any other questions?
Nathaniel?
Yes.
Yeah, Pete, once again, you had just made the comment that, if I understood you correctly, that we'd be able, during the interview process, to ask these individuals what classes or what skills they picked up while they were incarcerated. Am I correct in understanding that?
Well, what I would ask is, what skills do you have? Like we would ask probably anybody coming to interview, what skills do you have? Do you have any certifications? Because I'll tell you, any guy that goes and is incarcerated, he has a folder of every certificate he has and would be more than, he's proud to show those certificates. So I'd want to make sure that you line those up with what is legal questions to ask in the interview. So I don't want to get in trouble with that. Yep, that's a good question. I appreciate you clarifying that.
That was my point exactly. Was that legally we can't ask certain questions.
So let's say what's great to get so what's great is if an individual works with me, what I can do is work with those individuals, because we're working together as a team to help get a guy employed. There are some things that I'll work with. We can try to help. I can try to help out with the guy's permission to be able to express some of their certificates. But a lot of these certificates, they're going to put in their application. They're going to be putting in their resume, because those things are a pretty big deal to them, that they've got these things and to have that as a resource. Just like if I did a 4-year school and I have degrees, I'm going to make sure that's in my applications. And so they're more than happy to put those. Usually you're going to see that in your applications, resumes, so on. But thanks for clarifying that, because I don't want anybody getting in trouble with that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I'll be out of a job too.
Nathaniel, can I ask a question?
Yes.
My name's Julie Winter. I'm an employment specialist with New Horizons North up in Ashland. And I guess my question is, as far as disclosure, when, some of my consumers go into interviews, they don't know what employers can ask and what, they can't ask. So sometimes it seems like they maybe, give more disclosure than is needed or things like that. So what are some kind of things you could suggest as far as like what an employer can and cannot ask?
So good question. What I do is in the class when we start talking about interviews, and then I will do a mock interview, I will go through all kinds of questions. I do educate our guys what can be asked, what cannot be asked, what is within the whole, what's within an employer's realm that they can ask, and where they want to communicate as far as an individual applying for that job in the interview. So we do mock interviews and give those guys, educate those guys how to do that better, because we have individuals who don't. A person who goes in an interview generally is nervous to begin with, but you get a guy who has a background and has different ways of thinking, doesn't communicate well. He could be a great worker. And so what we do is we really work and practice and give them very specific education to do well or do better in an interview, how to answer those questions. Is that was that what you were kind of addressing as far as an individual, or were we talking more as an employer?
Well, I guess kind of as an employer, like, you know, I work with consumers who say, I don't put down anything on my application other than, yes, I have a record, because they're going to look me up before I even go there, and they're going to know everything already, which, you know, obviously we know is not, they shouldn't be doing. But so, like, what are some things that I can, you know, assure them that,
well,
you know,
I tell all my guys to be straight up honest, because they're going to find out anyhow, right? I mean, as an employer, I mean, I don't put this out there, but I know there's employers that look at social media, look at all kinds of things. I talk to my guys about that. I talk about if you're going to do your best foot forward in being successful, then everything that you do should line up with that. So on that end of things. That's important for me to know that, for them to know that. As far as being on the application, I mean, we address that. If it says you've committed a felony in the last 3 years or last 5 years, and you have, then you need to check the box. But I might have them. Now, every employer is going to be different, but I might have that individual say, hey, I'll be glad to explain that in an interview. On their end of things, that's what because as soon as you start getting mixed messages, why do I want to hire somebody who's already mudding the waters and things aren't checking out? I don't want to, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence to hire somebody. So all my guys that I work with specifically, I am encouraging them to be honest, be straightforward, but I might tell them, hey, it might be best to say, hey, you'll be glad to address that in an interview. And I said, you know what, anybody can find that out. I can find that out using CCAP in Wisconsin, right, Circuit Court Access. You can, if as long as you got the right person with the right middle initial, you can kind of take a look and get an overview of a person, and you know, whether, you know, I know people do that. And so we just talk about all of those things so that when they do come in the interview, they can address the things that they have done if it comes up. Because at the end of the day, if we're employing people, we still want to know they have some of those soft skills going to show up every day, you know, have those abilities. So I would ask them the same questions we ask anybody, because we still need to know that they're going to be more, that they're qualified to do what we want them to do. Again, that's where, if you are interested in the Windows to Work program, interested in individuals that I work with, like I said, I don't mind hire them. I'll hire them. I can hire them at $10 an hour to work for a month. You're going to know in a month if that individual's going to make it or not. I can reimburse wages and do the on-the-job training, we call it, and I'm more than happy to give them opportunity to see if it makes it. We walk those things out. Hey, this is no guarantee of a job. Here's what it is. That's the work experience. If you hire them, before you hire them and you work that out with me and I'm working with them, I'll be more than happy to do some of those programs to help give an opportunity, at least pay for some of the expenses that it takes to train an employee before they're fully functioning, and it gives you an opportunity to see if that is going to be the best fit. Now, some bigger employers, they don't want to mess with all that. I get that, but it is something that maybe a lot of employers are not aware of, and there are a couple things out there that at least I can help out with employers. The other thing is, I don't know if you know, but anybody who has a felony background can be bonded up to, I believe, $5,000 against theft and loss. And that's another thing for employers, that if you have a guy and you're wondering and they have a felony, it's just a matter of a phone call, and you can have that bonding up. I forget, it's like 3 months or something like that, or it's a time period. But that's also available to workers that or employers that want to take advantage of that.
Can I ask a question? How we get in contact with somebody who's in the Milwaukee area, who would be your counterpart down here?
Yep. What I would like to do at the end of this slide presentation, let me just go all the way to the end. There's my email, And if you just let me know that you were on the webinar and you'd like the contact person in Milwaukee area, I think there's a couple different areas. And so are a couple different people that are working with this program. I'll be more than happy to send along their contact information.
Okay.
And also in your area, and you might be able to see this on the Department of Correction website, but if you look in Community Corrections Employment Program, those are individuals that are also trying to plug people into jobs and employment. The Windows of Work just has a lot greater resources to help individuals. So if they're going into the construction trade and I'm working with them and they're in my program, they're going to work with a tool belt. If they have nothing, they're going to have work clothes and they're going to have the basic tools to be ready for that job.
And we're basically looking for maintenance people.
And maintenance, I mean, that's great because some of the guys are getting that degree while incarcerated, and, you know, a lot of the different areas, most of the areas are able to help with whatever they need to make sure that they're job ready.
Okay.
And that's pretty important. And that goes with also transportation. So, you know, up here in northern Wisconsin is pretty rural. So, you know, transportation is a big deal. In Douglas County, in Superior, I can help out with bus tokens. I've helped guys, I mean, when you're coming out with very little, I've helped guys just getting started with a gas card, so on and so forth. If there's a way, and transportation's the issue, I'm working my tail off to make sure that they have a way to get to work and reliable, the best that I can.
And Nathaniel, that said, how do you manage, or how do these folks manage housing?
Well, and that's a very good question. Well, generally speaking, in the state of Wisconsin, they have what we call, for some individuals that have no housing, they're going to go into TLPs. Some areas are going to go into homeless shelters. Some people are going back and have housing and so on and so forth. And so for the guys that I'm working with, which we cover in class, I just don't get a guy an apartment, rent an apartment for them. Before I help them with first month's rent, they need to save for the deposit, and then I'll pay a month's rent after they've been working for a month. If there's an individual and you're coming up to Washburn County and it's January and it's 20 below zero and there's an emergency, I'm going to make sure that guy has housing one way or the other. I don't care if it's a hotel. And then when I do that with housing and assistance, that is in teamwork with their agent. So we're addressing those issues. Okay, you have a felony, now you need to find housing. And so we're teaching them how to do that, how to budget, how to look, where do you look, what are you looking for, and those things. And so that's part of that as well. Well, I tell you what, great questions. You have my email. You can call me and leave a message, and I'll be more than glad to call you. I am on the road a lot. I will be for the rest of this month. I'm teaching 3 classes currently, so but please leave your email me, and if you want to call, I will call you back when I do get in the office, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or to further the conversation. I appreciate you joining me today, and again, my hope is that we see some of these guys and they're able to get back in their community, be successful, and see less and less people incarcerated. So, and hopefully it's a win-win for employers finding people who are well-trained, ready to work, and not going back, and we have a win-win. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.